You might have started learning a different language, but a few weeks in or a few months in, you've given up and you're wondering why it is. Why is it really hard to stay consistent and stay motivated over the long term? Well, the biggest reason is psychological. It's to do with the reward system in your brain. And every time you do something good or something well, you normally get that. But in the early days of learning a language, it takes a long time to feel that. And in this video, I'm going to dive deeper into why that is and what you can do to make it easier to stay motivated when learning a different language in the long term. And ultimately, this will help you to reach your language goals quicker and also increase the chance of actually doing it in the first place. So my name is James and I'm native in English. Puedo hablar español e anche posso parlare italiano. I help people reach their language goals. So think of when you're a baby or when you look at babies or young kids nowadays and when you see them trying to speak or say a word or two, if they say a word like thirsty or hungry or cold or hot, and their parents or family tend to give them a lot of praise even for trying to speak a different language. However, it gets to a certain point when they're a bit older, even in school, where they have exams and they do tests, and then making mistakes is bad because you have to get top marks essentially. Your aim is to get full marks because in the classroom, that's how the teacher measures who's on track versus maybe falling behind. It's using values essentially. And that's one of the reasons why, as a young child who's learning a different language, maybe they can speak one or two or three native languages, they find it so much easier because they rate success as trying to speak the language. So they try to say one word, even if it's really grammatically incorrect or they're not saying the full sentence, they could say, I hungry. And their parents understand, okay, and we'll give you food. And also, they get encouraged by the family around them, even if they say a word. So they're like, wait a minute, even if I try and say this word in this native language, I get praise anyway. That's really good. So they feel good about the process of trying. If they say the wrong word, you're not going to tell off a young child for saying the wrong word or being grammatically incorrect. And you don't give them, oh, you've got 70% while trying to ask your mum for a sandwich. That doesn't happen. So when we're in school, that happens. And it means that we're then scared of making mistakes. So with that said, even as adults, we like praise. When our boss or manager says something good about our work, or our friends say something good about us, like, oh, I'm really impressed with XYZ, that makes us feel good naturally as humans. And we like that. So essentially, if you want to enjoy the process of learning a different language, you need to expose yourself to speak with native speakers and get compliments from them. It sounds really weird, this, but if you're able to get more frequent feedback from the people you practice with, so say you're on a language app or you're in person at a language exchange that's near your area, if you just type into Google language exchange near me, you'll find an area and you'll find people to practice with. And if you're doing that and you're speaking with people and you're saying even one word or a few words at a time, if you're making an effort to speak their language, they will appreciate you for that. And most of the time, most people are friendly. So if you try and say something, they'll understand what you're saying and they'll be like, wow, your Spanish or Italian is really good. It depends what language you're speaking. Some people are more grateful that you can speak their language than others. However, the point remains that if you are showing an active effort into speaking their language, it doesn't matter if you're grammatically perfect or not. In fact, you shouldn't aim to be perfect anyway. Otherwise, you just won't say anything. You won't even try. But if you try speaking with them, even if you get anxious and really agitated around it, you push through that. The benefit of that is you feel good about saying these little things. Even if you say like, hi, I'm from Manchester, where are you from? In their language and they respond back to you, that should feel really good for you. So in essence, you need a place to practice the language and get feedback from native speakers. And you've got to be careful how you word it really, because it's a bit weird saying, can you give me positive feedback about what I'm saying? But what I'm trying to say is if you have exposure to speak with natives on a regular basis while you're in the early stage of learning a language and you get that feedback, any feedback is good. If they understand what you're saying, celebrate that. So you've got to celebrate the small wins, and most people will appreciate you speaking their language and they'll say, oh, brilliant, you can speak it really well, sort of thing, even if you're really grammatically incorrect. They'll praise you for it. And that social validation that makes you feel, oh, this effort that I'm putting in is worth it. Ultimately, it's a case that you're putting effort in right at the start. It's just like going to the gym where you have to put a lot of effort in. And initially, you don't really see the progress. Other people will do, even if it's tiny, it's still there. You're still building the foundations of speaking that language, but it just takes a few months to feel like you can actually speak it and feel like if someone asks you something, you can think of the words, understand what they mean, and then reply back to them. But in the early days, you're spending a lot of effort on language apps, listening to podcasts, watching TV shows, and you feel like nothing's going in. So you need to be exposing yourself to native speakers either on, Hello Talk, italki. There's loads of platforms that you can use that are really good at connecting you with native speakers. So it doesn't matter really if it's online or in person, as long as you're trying to practice saying a word or two or phrases with them and getting responses back, that's what matters. Also, if you're watching this, you're probably a busy person who wants to learn a language, but you just can't find enough time. So what I've done is I've created a 30-day email course essentially, where every day you get an email written by myself on how to learn a language in as least time as possible, given that you're a busy person. And each email takes 1 minute per day to read, and that's how I've made it. And they're written by me and they're short and to the point. And there's a link below in the description if you're interested. Finally, you might have a massive daily streak on Duolingo or your favorite language app, but you don't feel like you can have a conversation. That's because realistically, language apps are only a small chunk of the whole equation of learning a different language. Really, you need the ability to think quickly, understand what's being said to you, and be able to string a sentence together to say back to people. Now, language apps are good for teaching you the habit of consistency, so turning up every day, even 2 or 3 minutes on your language app to do the exercises, but many people get more scared of losing their daily streak than actually having passion to learn language. So keep building your 3 or 700 or 1000 daily streak on Duolingo, but at the same time, watch content, watch TV content in your target language, listen to a podcast in your target language while you're commuting back and forth. You don't have to be mentally awake for it. If you listen to it passively in the background, that's fine. But these are all examples where you can do it if you've got a busy lifestyle, because many people have to wait for public transport or the commute to work, to and from the drive, and you can use that time to add a language learning activity into it. But as I said, the main point in this video is why you're not motivated to learn a language after a certain period of time. And the things I'm trying to say are, one, make it so that when you're speaking with native speakers, you feel good about the process. You have to feel good about it. And if you get feedback, aka they're understanding what you're saying, or they give you a compliment, take that on board, because we want to feel good about the process to keep on going. And secondly, make the things that you do around language learning actually fun and interesting. Because if it's boring or it takes a lot of time or you're just not really into it, then you're going to quit after a few weeks. Anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. As I say, if you're a busy person, there's a link below for the 1 minute email course that gives you a snippet of language learning advice if you're a busy person that takes 1 minute to read every day for the next 30 days. And there's a video recommendation in my screen. So if you want to learn language in less time, feel free to click it and I'll see you later.